All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are pulling back the curtain on what it really costs to import commercial goods into Canada. We're talking about all those hidden fees, the ones that always seem to catch businesses by surprise.
So, you've done it. You've found the perfect product, you've hammered out a price, and you're all set to bring it in. But here's the thing. That price you agreed on, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real cost to land those goods in Canada is often buried in, well, a confusing maze of duties, taxes, and rules.
But don't worry. The best way to think about this whole process is like an importer's quest. It might feel a little intimidating at first, for sure. But this Explainer, this is your map. We're going to walk you through every single step so you can figure out the true landed cost and import with total confidence. Okay, let's get started. Our quest officially begins now. And the main goal here is simple: to make sure there are no surprise costs, no nasty shocks, and no frustrating delays at the border. Any successful quest starts with one thing: knowing exactly what you're carrying. And when it comes to importing, that means you have to identify two key things about your product: its official ID and its true origin. So there are two absolutely foundational pieces of information you need before you can even think about calculating costs. That's the HS code and the country of origin. I can't stress this enough. If you get these wrong, everything else that follows, it's going to be wrong too. First up, the HS code. Now, think of this like your product's universal passport number. It's a special 10-digit code that tells customs officials all over the world exactly what your product is. This code is literally the key that unlocks the correct duty rate. Second, we have the country of origin. And this is so important. This is where the goods were actually made, or grown, or produced. It's not necessarily where they were shipped from. So, say you have electronics made in Vietnam, but they ship out from a warehouse in Singapore. The country of origin is Vietnam. Getting that distinction right is what determines whether you can get a discount on your duties. Okay, so now that we have our product's ID, that's the HS code, and its origin, we can finally start to read the tariff map. This is where we figure out what duty rate we're actually going to have to pay.
Right, so in Canada, your goods could fall under a few different tariff treatments. The best way to think of these is like different pricing tiers. You got your standard default rate, but you've also got special discounts and even a pretty hefty penalty rate.
So here's the bottom line. Most countries get what's called the Most Favored Nation, or MFN rate. That's basically the standard price. But if a country doesn't have this status, right now that includes places like Russia and Belarus, they get hit with the general tariff, and that is a steep 35% penalty. This really shows you the massive financial impact of international trade deals. And here is a fantastic way to think about this. If that MFN rate is the standard menu price, think of free trade agreements as your special discount coupons. They can seriously slash that price, and in a lot of cases, bring it all the way down to zero. So how many of these discount coupons does Canada actually have? Well, as of 2025, Canada has active free trade agreements with 51 different countries. 51! That is a huge opportunity for you as an importer to save a lot of money, as long as your goods qualify, of course. Okay, you figured out your duty rate. Quest complete, right? Ha, not so fast. Now we come to the next challenge on our map, the 3 hidden taxes that get piled on top of your duties. And these are the Goods and Services Tax, or GST, the excise tax, and excise duties. Now, GST is that 5% federal tax that applies to pretty much everything. Then you have excise tax, which hits very specific things like luxury cars or air conditioners. And finally, there are excise duties, which are levied on specially regulated products like alcohol, tobacco, and, yes, vaping products. All right, it's time for the grand finale, the final calculation. We're going to take an example straight from our sources and put all of these different pieces together. Let's see how these costs actually stack up in the real world. Okay, so we start with what's called the value for duty. Let's say we bought an item for $100. Using the official CBSA exchange rate, that converts to 115 Canadian dollars. That's our starting number. Next, we add the customs duty. For this product, let's say it has a 4% MFN duty rate.
So we take 4% of our $115 value, and that adds another $4.60 to the bill. And now for the GST. And you really got to pay close attention here because this is where people get tripped up. The 5% GST isn't calculated on the original $115. No, it's calculated on the value plus the duty you just added. So that's 5% of $119.60, which adds another $5.98. And there you have it. The total duties and taxes you have to pay at the border come out to $10.58. So that $100 US item, it doesn't just cost 115 Canadian, it costs 115 plus another 10.58 in government charges. That's an increase of over 9% before it's even in the country. So, you've completed your first quest. You've calculated the true cost. But how do you make sure your next shipment and the one after that is just as smooth? Well, the CBSA actually offers some really powerful tools to give you certainty before you even ship.
Think of these like getting the answers to the test ahead of time. You can use something called an advance ruling to get a legally binding decision on your product's HS code or whether it qualifies for a free trade agreement. And for more complex questions, say about valuation or country of origin marking, you'd use what's called a national customs ruling.
With this knowledge, the path forward is so much clearer. You now have the map, you have the tools. The complexity of importing, it's no longer this scary barrier. It's just a process, and it's one you can absolutely master. Your import quest is really just beginning. So the only question left is, are you ready to unlock the global marketplace?